This video is brought to you by Monolake, makers of the Altair G1 digital streaming deck. Click to audiophiles.com for more information.
Delicious. A nice cup of hot tea on a very cold wintry day here in Berlin. And it is snowing. And snow means that I've completely scrapped the video that we were going to shoot today in favour of something completely different, something about music. And this will be the first in a series of videos about electronic music, in which I hope to convert some of you over to different kinds of electronic music. So we're not talking about the electronic music made by Kraftwerk or Jean-Michel Jarre or Tangerine Dream or Vangelis. Not talking about any of that. I want to talk about slightly different kinds of electronic music. Now, if you're thinking that John's about to talk about duf music or club music, then you might want to check your prejudice, because that's absolutely not the case. I want to talk about, well, really, mostly beatless music, but music with this kind of feeling. And this is Monolake's Silence, which is an incredible sounding record from 2009 from I think he's from Berlin, isn't he? Robert Henke. But this is not part of my list of 5 albums today. Today is the 3rd of January. This is a time of year where we've just got over the hump of New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and we're thinking about the year ahead. And we're sort of ruminating on things that have happened in the previous year. And, we're making mental plans for what might happen this year. And when it's cold and snowy and wet and kind of unpleasant outside in some respects, it really lends itself, that kind of weather lends itself to staying at home and, drinking tea and just thinking, like almost, self-reflecting, meditating on things. And the 5 albums I want to talk about today really sort of tap into that feeling of self-meditation. Or maybe meditation is the wrong word, but self-reflection, when you sit there and you cogitate. That's a very unnecessarily elaborate word for this, really. Now, obviously, I'm talking about people who live in the northern hemisphere, where we're in the middle of winter. Because if you live in Australia right now, as I used to, then basically life is all sunshine and barbecues. And that does not lend itself, that kind of weather does not lend itself very well to that sort of melancholy tinged atmosphere that winter brings, or the self-reflective nature of, just being into early January. And also here, because the sun sets right now, it starts to set at 3 p.m. It's pretty much dark by 4 p.m. That really adds to the rumination of this time of year. So I'm going to talk about 5 albums that I listen to that help me kind of, think about what's to come and to reflect on things. Does that sound really pretentious? I'm not sure. But anyway, if you think it is, then this is just like 5 great electronic music albums. So first up, this is Substrata by Biosphere. This is from '97. This is Geir Jensen's 3rd album. Geir Jensen is from Tromsø, I think, in the very north of Norway. And his first two records, they were very sort of beats driven, sort of home club music. But this is mostly beatless. It's kind of this very moody ambient music. And for me, it really kind of connotes, well, it's a bit like looking at a landscape painting of an icy tundra. That to me is what this album sounds like. Adding to the kind of the sense of mystery with this record are two very nicely and judiciously placed samples from Twin Peaks. So there's a bit from Major Briggs talking to Bobby Briggs, and there's a bit where the Giant appears to Agent Cooper. So if you're a Twin Peaks fan, this is a must listen. So you can pick up the CD, this CD, the original CD, for between 10 and 15 euros on Discogs. You can get the 2011 vinyl issue, because that was the first time it was issued on vinyl, on Discogs for $50 and above. But don't buy it there, because if you cut over to the Biophon record label Bandcamp page, you can get the vinyl for £22. And I think you can get the CD there, so it's about 12 quid as well. So definitely buy it from Bandcamp. It's been remastered. It's a good remaster. It sounds very, very nice. It also, actually, I was playing it this morning just before Olaf came over, and as the sun was, well, not the sun, as it was getting light. And I did notice like hints of sort of acoustic elements and jazzy inflections. So it's not completely a Winters album. So there is some niceness to it, I guess. It's not completely cold. But yeah, Bandcamp. Get this from Bandcamp. It's on streaming as well, but Bandcamp is where Gia Jensen gets paid properly. Similarly meditative is possibly the most underrated album in the David Bowie catalogue. This is called All Saints Instrumentals, and I believe this started life as a Christmas present from David Bowie to his friends and family in '93, and it was a double CD back then. But when it came out in 2001, this version, it had been cut down to a single CD, which I can tell you is a very good thing, because what he or EMI did is they removed all the, frankly, dreadful instrumentals from Black Tie, White Noise, which really don't fit with the cuts from Low and Heroes that really dominate this album. This is basically, if you imagine all the kind of ambient Berlin stuff from Low and Heroes on here, plus there's Crystal Japan, which is an early 80s B-side. And then there's a track called, I think it's called Brilliant Adventure from Hours in '99. And there's another one, and there's also the Philip Glass take on one of the Low tracks. And what that means is we get a very cohesive sounding record. Like all of the tracks on here, also some from the Buddha of Suburbia, instrumentals from that, they make for a very complete record. You would think that this had maybe been recorded pretty much at the same time, or certainly within a 5-year period. So as a whole, this album really invites self-reflection from the listener. You know, if you're sat there, mainly if you're on your own, and you're just listening to this music, this album, it really does engender a sense of contemplation, especially with the wintry weather outside. It's on streaming services, All Saints, very easy to find. The CD, super easy to find as well. You can get this for about $3 even on the Amazons, you can buy it for $3 and on Discogs. And for vinyl nerds, it was never issued on vinyl, so CD is your only choice here, or streaming. But buy the CD, because David Bowie's estate gets more money from the CD than from your stream. Chill Out or Die, Volume 4. Chill, it's in the title. It's chilly outside. This is the fourth volume in a series that was put together by, I think, Casper Pound and Mixmaster Morris. Now, what I love about Volume 4, and a lot of people don't like this volume at all, but I like it because it's nothing like the first three. It doesn't have that sort of alien trance vibe. This is far more downbeat, more ambient. Some of it is entirely beatless. And even, I mean, disc 1 kicks off with a very early track from Wagon Christ, which is Luke Vibbert's early 90s moniker. And then it goes into some Irresistible Force, which is Mixmaster Morris. And it slowly builds and builds and builds and builds until it gets to a track by James Bernard, which is just superb. There's some beats, not too cold, so a few acid squiggles. And then disc 1 is rounded off by a track by Humate, I think, which many people will know. Now that is more like club music, but I just love the way that the first track has this sort of like jazzy rhythm, then it drops down into beatlessness and then rebuilds again. A great winter listen. Disc 2, I'm not so keen on necessarily, although if you like Tangerine Dream, you'll absolutely love the Dreamfish track on here, which is 20 minutes of Pete Namlook and Mixmaster Morris. It kind of has this modulated synth that noodles on for a very long time. And the rest of the second disc is a little bit patchier. But I come back to this every single winter, this first disc especially. And you can get this on Discogs for about 10 or 15 euros. It is not on streaming services. There was a vinyl, I believe, but when I checked this morning, there wasn't a copy available on Discogs at all, so good luck finding that. But for me, this is mid-90s ambient, techno, electronica. This is really, the original language, if you like, of this album is CD, for me. But yeah, not on streaming. From 1994, Selected Ambient Works Volume 2 from Aphex Twin. Now this is almost canon, so this album has been discussed a lot, it's been done to death. But what makes this a great winter contemplation album is that it's very dark. There are almost no beats to be found. It's sometimes very murky. And I think Richard James really, tried to pull away from the very bright and airy sounds that he put forth on Volume 1. And even the artwork is fascinating because the tracks don't have names. They are associated with sort of photos and, photos of textures. And you can see one here, actually does have a name, it's called Blue Calcs. This is the first track on disc 2. And that's where really the album opens up into something really quite beautiful. And it does finally bring some respite from this sort of it's like living in a cave when you listen to the first 5 discs of this. It's just, you feel like there's water dropping, it's very humid, there are, stalactites and stalagmites around you. That's how it feels to me. But it really does feel very isolationist. I can't listen to this album in one go. Actually, I find it very difficult. Apart from Blue Calcs, and there's another track on disc 2 as well, which is much more airy and has more of an optimistic, more of an elevated feel, like it feels like you're bringing yourself out of that contemplative mood. This is a dense, intense listen for the most committed listener. A couple of tracks will test your speakers, especially the resonant quality of the cabinet of your speakers. I can't remember, don't ask me which track, I think it's somewhere in the middle of disc 1, but it's worth kind of digging in for that. And you can see even on the disc here, it's printed with these little pie charts, and these are designed to show the track lengths in the most obscure way possible. Now this is the UK CD, which I think has 24 tracks. The US CD, for some bizarre reason, dropped a track to 23. The original UK pressing, the vinyl pressing, had 25 tracks. It had an extra track called Stone in Focus, which Aphex twin nerds kind of went nuts for, probably because it's only available on vinyl. If you want to try and buy a vinyl copy from the mid-90s, oh my goodness, it's going to cost you at least 300 euros, at least. There was an unofficial repress, it wasn't done by Warp. In 2017, 2016, I remember seeing some copies in Japan for like 30 euros. And I didn't buy it because, number one, it was mastered from a CD. So what's the point? And therefore it didn't have Stone in Focus. So if you don't get the UK CD like this, I would recommend going to the Aphex Twin download store and getting the 2017 digital reissue, which includes all of the original vinyl track list, so including Stone in Focus, and a bonus track. So there are many different versions of this. It's complicated, but go and get the download. And I would urge you to get the download again, because the artist earns more money from the download or from a new CD than when you're streaming. Also from 95 is the Otherness EP from the Cocteau twins. Now, if you're thinking, oh, the Cocteau twins were electronic music, then you haven't really heard this, because this is 4 tracks, 2 from their final album, Milk and Kisses, 1 from Victoria Land, 1 from Heaven or Las Vegas, but all remixed by Seafield's Mark Clifford. And that means we get lots of very icy cold beats, some low slung bass, which will challenge your speakers if you like that kind of thing. But they're also very beautiful, and they do feature the obviously still cut up bits of Liz Fraser's vocals. Many of you will know Liz Fraser as the vocalist from Massive Attack's Teardrop. So if you don't know the Cocteau twins, then that's where you might have heard her elsewhere. She has the most beautiful voice, but not in a traditionally beautiful way, more like an alien beautiful way. Like the Cocteau twins, the lyrics were just mainly made up words, garbled nonsense, which kind of created this other world. And this EP really takes that otherworldliness to the next level. And I think this is a sign of where the Cocteau twins may have gone had they not split up. Now, of the 5 albums, EPs, it's an EP, featured in this video, this is probably the one that's best enjoyed behind headphones because of the very low bass on some tracks. Unless, of course, you're running, a sub or something like that. But I also think that the headphones lend this EP, an intimacy that you just don't get from loudspeaker listening. And if we're after that sort of contemplative, meditative vibe, headphones are the way to go. Now, this EP has never been reissued since '95. It was featured on a compilation called Lullabies to Violain, which originally came out as a 4 CD box, and then it was split into two CD sets. Now, in my territory in Germany, only Volume 1 is available on streaming services. And only Volume 1 is really easy to buy on CD for some reason. CD 2 seems to be very expensive, very elusive, and for me, not on streaming services. And the the Volume 2 package featured the 4 tracks from this, but they really screwed with the mastering when they did that Lullabies to Violain box set reissue thing. This is by far the best sounding version of these 4 tracks. So try and hunt this down. If you want a vinyl copy, you're looking at $50. I checked this morning on Discogs. But a CD, I think 10 euros should cover it, maybe with a bit more including shipping. Well worth tracking down. So you can probably tell that I'm still very big into old man physical formats. You know, the CD is dying, it's going away. But I still love this format for many reasons, mainly because it's pretty affordable compared to vinyl, and because it's something tangible. I own something, it's not just out there in the cloud and may disappear at any moment. That's an important thing, actually. No one can take these away from me. Also, when I play them, it's not being tracked. It's a private listening session. If I listen to the Cocteau twins at home, Spotify or any other sort of streaming service or platform is not tracking my listening habits, which I think is also a good thing, and it's becoming more and more important to me. And we'll be going deeper on these issues in a future episode of the Darko.Audio podcast. So look out for that. So I wanted to call these 5 records, these 5 CDs, Ice Music. And I thought it'd be really interesting to translate that into German. So Ice Musik. But Ice Musik translates to ice cream music. And then all I've said, there's no such thing as Ice Musik. And I should just give up, really. So wenn euch dieses Video gefallen hat, bitte klickt auf den Like-Knopf. Und wenn euch wenn euch meine Ansicht über High-End Audio gefallen, bitte abonniert diesen Kanal. Und wie immer, danke fürs Anschauen. So there are I was about to say there are no bloopers in this video, and there aren't. But there were 3 CDs that I wanted to include, but they didn't make the short list, mainly because I felt that they were a little bit too close to what most people would call techno and what grumpy old men call duff. But I'll mention them here anyway for anybody that likes the music that I've suggested so far and wants to go a bit further. So we've got Vapourspace's Gravitational Arch of 10. This is like a 30-minute suite of music, of electronic music, that still to this day I think is absolutely astonishing. It's quite fast in places. It's kind of got that old 135 BPM techno vibe. But this is, you still hear this in movie soundtracks that show club scenes and things like that, produced by a guy called Mark Gage. And yeah, this is just utterly fantastic. Not very well known. I guess this is lesser known as well. Speedy J's Public Energy #1. This has a very confrontational industrial vibe. So if you're into sort of very pretty or very easy listening, if you like Jean-Michel Jarre and think that's the pinnacle of electronic music, or Vangelis, you're not going to like this. But if you want something a bit more challenging, definitely this. This is not like Speedy J's first 2 albums, Ginger and G-Spot, I think they were called. This is like a left turn into something far more abstract. And I love it for that. And again, it has that sort of isolationist feel to it. And then lastly, an album by a chap called Rother. Now apparently this is called Simulationszeitalter, which Olaf says translates as the age of simulation. I think I've mentioned this in a video before, because the first track, Biomechanic, sounds exactly like Kraftwerk. So if you like Kraftwerk, you're going to love the first track on this. Got a nice sort of reflective sleeve. I think are these called lenticular something? I'm not sure. The rest of it is very much traditional electro vibe. So if you think electro is techno, I don't mean that. No, I mean like electro that sort of originated in the 80s. So a break beat. In this case, very slow, lots of German treated voices on this. Yeah, this is a very dark listen, but this is perfect for a day like today when it's snowing. Perfect. Perfect.